In today's video, I want to talk about two major topics. I want to candidly share my recent thoughts and feelings about selling bags on the pre-loved market. And as a result of that, I also want to reflect on this very popular, very seemingly sound and healthy one in, one out rule when it comes to attempting to shop intentionally. But the reality is that it can also unintentionally trigger very toxic buy-sell behavior cycles. And yet this behavior has become so prevalent and normalized among luxury YouTubers and beyond, I would say. We see this rule being widely adopted by those who like to shop in general, and how it can, again, unintentionally further fuel shopping addictions. Now, for me personally, I acknowledge that my recent adoption of this rule has turned borderline toxic, because on the surface, it seems like I'm trying to do the financially responsible thing, right? Letting go of bags that no longer serve me, not letting my money depreciate on a shelf, like just the general notion of letting go of things and recuperating some freed up funds along the way should be a positive thing, right? Because it can help clear financial, physical, and mental clutter and space. It can also help take away some of the sting from over-consuming and almost help you feel like you're self-correcting and not letting your collection, your accumulated possessions get out of hand. But when this one in and one out rule becomes a crutch, and when it becomes an excuse to make purchases with a little less intention, then it's no longer a good thing. Having adopted this rule in my mind, I can just as easily sell things off whenever I'm ready. But my primary reason for selling recently is so I can buy more. And I've personally taken this very logical, very financially sound one in, one out rule and tainted it, really. So let me know if you can relate. Now, at the end, I'm also going to share with you some of my new processes for breaking this toxic buy-sell cycle, so I hope you find this helpful. Welcome or welcome back to A Briefcase of Luxury, where we love to chat about all things related to life, learning, and luxury. While I have no intentions of quitting my day job as a business professor, I would love to continue to grow this channel, so thank you for being here today. Now, I called it even before the start of 2025 that the pre-loved scene this year was straight up going to be a buyer's and not a seller's market. And that's just the nature of the pre-loved business model, or any sound economic model, where prices for goods are dictated by supply and demand. And when the supply is higher than demand, we tend to see a downward price correction, often in terms of a price decline, which then also translate into lower supplier power and pricing, because goods are not able to sell at a premium anymore. And so when I've been saying that I'm done with buying luxury in my past few videos, let me clarify, I primarily mean buying new from store, because if anything, my urge to buy pre-loved vintage pieces has never been stronger, just based on the facts that when it comes to pre-loved or vintage, you typically pay less and get a higher quality product for the most part. So as a result, I'm rarely ever browsing new designer releases these days. Instead, my eyes have been glued to Fashionphile, to The RealReal, Rebag, and even eBay, waiting for those elusive limited edition pieces to drop. And prices have truly been phenomenal. And if you currently have the funds to indulge in buying pre-loved pieces, then man, power to you. What a great time to be alive. But I also know that all of this signals another underlying trend, that people are selling off more of their collection. And while everyone may have their own reasons for doing so, I'm assuming a big one is just to free up funds for life in general, which has gotten more expensive, and to an extent maybe to prep for any sort of economic uncertainty, because that's a lot of money sitting on our shelves. So while now is a great time to buy on the pre-loved market, it is not a great time to sell. And if you do operate under the one in and one out policy, then chances are you are going to have to trade down. Now, to begin with, most pieces do depreciate fairly rapidly, even your more resistant pieces like Hermes and Chanel. So already it's not going to be typically a one-to-one exchange, right? Because you are going to lose money selling at the moment, more than relative to the past 2 to 3 years. Again, even your typical premium pieces aren't currently selling at a premium anymore. So if anything, it's going to be more realistically like 2, 3, or 4 out for one in, depending on what the one item is. And depending on price is even an issue when it comes to this rule for you personally. Like, are you okay, let's say, selling a Longchamp Le Pliage bag in exchange for a mini Kelly, right? Does that still fit your one in, one out criteria? But this current market is really driving home the fact that even if the pieces I'm tracking aren't all of your crazy Hermes and Chanel pieces, it's still the reality that I will be losing money and I will need to sell extra to make up the cost difference. So I'm at the point where I'm not necessarily at purse piece, but I'm definitely purse tired. Like we're at a purse pause. How about that? Because I'm tired of treating my purse like a revolving door. And this year in 2025, as much fun as it's been hunting for pre-loved and hard to find bags at better than before prices, it's still tiring because the problem with these hard to find bags is that the need to impulse trigger pull is still there. Like that FOMO feeling is mentally exhausting. Like currently there are more than a handful of vintage limited edition bags that I would love to just snap up in a heartbeat, all at prices that are, in my opinion, so good, just compared to what I've seen them listed at before. But if I bought every single one of those, that's still going to add up. And according to this one in and one out rule, if I factor in price, I will have to get rid of quite a few additional pieces to make up that difference. For me, I've gotten comfortable with the idea of selling to services like Fashionphile and The RealReal. Those are the two that I use the most. And when I do decide to sell, it's for this exact reason, as in there is something I want more than keeping those bags in my collection. And the decision process for me is typically pretty straightforward when it comes to getting rid of my bags. I would pick a bag off the shelf, hold it in both hands for a minute or so, and simply ask myself, if I could choose between keeping this or replacing it with something else, typically something I already had in mind, or simply replacing it for money, which would it be? That's it. I mean, more or less, there's maybe a little bit more to the process, but in doing so, between last year and this year to date, I've probably let go of 20 to 30 items, which includes bags, shoes, and accessories. But for almost all of these items, it wasn't because I wanted the money, but it was because I wanted something else more than I wanted to keep the current item, which also then ties into my 5 for 2025 rule, where I'm challenging myself to only spend new money on 5 designer items this year. And if I wanted to buy anything over that, it will have to be funded from selling off bits and pieces of my current collection. So here I am with a whole list of limited edition pieces that I'm drooling over, and I'm practically forcing myself to sell. And honestly, I am out of things I'm willing to sell, either because they are bags that I actually use or know I will regret selling, or that I just don't feel good selling it at the price I'm being offered, especially when it comes to Fashionphile's buyout prices, or even the uncertainty of consigning with The RealReal, where you don't know how much you're going to get and when. And I guess at the end of the day, I just don't want the wish list item as much as I want to lose money on my current collection. I hope that's making sense. Now, my other option is to sell some of these items myself, like on Poshmark, but I just don't feel comfortable doing that with these big ticket items. Just like how I personally just don't feel comfortable buying big ticket items from Poshmark. Again, this is just a personal thing. So I'm really trying to actively break this cycle and just learn how to properly acknowledge this feeling of missing out on a hard to find limited edition piece. And here's what I've been doing. I've been keeping a visual tally of my entire bag collection just in a simple PowerPoint. That way, when I'm at my desk, when I'm shopping online, I can see at a glance every bag I own. Also, I've done my best to keep a similar visual tally of every bag I've sold, just to prevent myself from buying something similar to what I've already gotten rid of in the past. And I cannot tell you how many times I've come across a bag that I really like just to look at my sold bags to see that I've sold something similar in the past, or it's something I already own that either looks very similar or that I would use for the same place and purpose. And just this exercise of creating visual snapshots of my entire collection has been really helpful, since I don't keep all of my bags in one spot. So it's just really easy to lose track of what you have, especially if you have a larger than what is necessary collection. So it's bizarre that even with this one in and one out rule, I'm not necessarily adding anything different, but just moving things around, like swapping one item out for another item that is essentially the same. I know I probably need to adopt more of a one out and no in policy, really multiple outs and no ins. For now, at least, I do enjoy collecting bags. And I do enjoy owning bags of various price points, and I do want to see my collection grow ever so slightly over the coming years, but I just need it to grow in a more controlled manner. So having visual tallies of what I've sold and what I still own has been really helpful. And it has also helped me feel satiated because I'm able to visually take in all at once the excess that I already have. So maybe it's not about satiation, maybe it's more about guilt. Like, why am I still feeling so greedy when I already have so much? Now, along those lines of creating a visual tally of bags I currently own and bags I've already sold, I've also started to create a visual tally of limited edition bags that I am currently tracking. Now, I used to just keep like a running list on my phone, but there's something about a visual list that is very eye-opening. And yes, I know you can do vision boards and everything on Pinterest and on different apps like that, but I just find PowerPoint to be less distracting, and it's easy for me to move bags around if I ever want to do comparisons. And overall, this form of window shopping and adding stuff to my collection has been a lot of fun, and it's almost therapeutic in a way that stops me from immediately impulse purchasing because I can take my time and play around with building my perfect bag collection, perfect for now at least, and I can take my time to add a wishlist bag to my current visual collection to see how it stacks up next to what I already have and whether it's going to be competing or if I need to add something different. And at the same time, I can also see how similar or different my current wishlist bags are from one another, so I can better prioritize which wishlist bag is more important. Now, the hard part is finding the exact limited edition version that I want to add. So again, this has been very helpful. For instance, I know I want to add a Fendi baguette one day. I've actually never owned a Fendi baguette, but I know I would like one, and I would like one of the limited edition pieces. But there's just so many. So I have a limited edition Fendi baguette tally where I've been saving pictures of all the baguettes I'm interested in, and from there I'm just slowly sorting through which ones I think would add the most to my collection. It's essentially guilt-free window shopping, and it still gives me a sense of accomplishment. That's not the right word, but at least I can see how this bag will stack up against what I already have. And the trick after that is just to wait for that specific one to drop. So that being said, the best thing I can do, the best piece of advice I have is just to be patient. And this is so much easier said than done because the reality is if you see a limited edition piece drop on the pre-loved market now, you may feel that sudden sense of FOMO, but just based on the current market, chances are another one will drop again in the future. Now, the very first few times that I saw one of my hard to get bags sell, it was very hard to swallow, and I started to wonder if I actually missed my chance. But in my case, every single one of the limited edition bags I've been tracking this year, I've been able to find again. Maybe not the next day, maybe a week or so, or even a month later, but I have always been able to find another eventually at a similar or even better price. So now we're halfway through the year. I've learned to be a lot more patient because up until this point, every bag I've regretted seeing getting sold to someone else, I have since found again. So let me know how you are faring in this market. Also, do you follow the one in and one out policy? How well is it working for you? Or have you tweaked it to make it work better for you? Please do share so we can all learn from one another. As always, thank you for sticking around until the end. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And I'll see you next week.